had a female gaze. And in no way was I running them through my male brain. As much as I can try to see the world as a woman, I never will be able to.
Through a documentary series, I met a young woman named Claire Wineland who was living with cystic fibrosis. She quickly became like a little sister to me. One day after filming, I casually asked her what dating was like in the hospital and whether she had ever dated someone else with CF. She told me that two people with cystic fibrosis can't be within 6 feet of each other because they could seriously harm one another. The moment she said that, I thought, that's a movie. Shifting to the legal drama unfolding now, Stephanie Jones and Blake Lively have been aggressively filing legal actions that appear aimed at overwhelming Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, and his colleague Melissa. The strategy, as it seems, is to create the appearance of a broader pattern suggesting a coordinated smear campaign, because without that narrative, their underlying claims risk losing strength. One of the lawsuits filed in 2025 came from the surviving spouse of Travis Flores, a former client whom Brian Friedman had represented in a copyright infringement case against Bald. The spouse alleged defamation, invasion of privacy, breach of fiduciary duty, and malpractice. However, there are immediate legal hurdles with those claims. The statute of limitations had already expired by the time the lawsuit was filed. Additionally, under established law, defamation claims generally cannot proceed on behalf of someone who has passed away, since reputational harm is considered personal and does not survive death. The invasion of privacy claim faces similar obstacles. When the lawsuit was first filed, it raised questions. Flores had tragically passed away from cystic fibrosis, and the timing of the suit seemed unusual. There had also been prior communications reportedly, including messages involving Ryan Reynolds and representatives at WMI referencing past complaints about Bald. That context made the new lawsuit feel less coincidental and more connected to the broader legal conflict. In response, Friedman filed an anti-SLAPP motion to strike the complaint in California. He argued that many of the claims were time-barred and arose from protected speech connected to judicial proceedings, which is shielded by both the litigation privilege and the fair report privilege. He also contended that defamation and privacy claims cannot be asserted on behalf of a deceased person's estate and that he had not disclosed private information or even mentioned Flores by name in the way alleged. Friedman further maintained that there was no conflict of interest. He denied ever representing Flores and Baldoni simultaneously, and stated that his later representation of Baldoni was unrelated to the earlier copyright matter involving Flores. According to the response, the two matters were not substantially related, undermining claims of breach of fiduciary duty or malpractice. Taken together, the defense positions the lawsuit as legally deficient on procedural and substantive grounds, arguing that it should be dismissed before moving forward. Developer Emo de Friedman also states that he never disclosed any of Travis Flores' confidential or attorney-client privileged information to anyone. He argues that the breach of contract, malpractice, and fiduciary duty claims rely in part on allegations about supposed public statements regarding Flores' reputation, which effectively attempt to recast those claims as defamation. As such, he contends they fail for the same legal reasons as the defamation claim itself. In a detailed declaration, Friedman explains that after the original Flores copyright lawsuit was filed, counsel for the defendants informed him that they had never had access to Flores' screenplay and that 5 Feet Apart was independently created. On October 18, 2021, he received a comprehensive letter from defense counsel representing CBS Films, Lionsgate, Wayfarer Entertainment, and Justin Baldoni. That letter outlined in detail the defendants' lack of access to Flores' script and described the independent development of the film. It also referenced Baldoni's charitable work. Friedman attached a copy of that letter as an exhibit. Following that correspondence, the defendants produced extensive documentation supporting their position. Ambry Genetics, in particular, produced nearly 1,500 documents, none of which indicated that Flores' script had been shared with Baldoni or any third party. Friedman notes that this material was not available to him or to Flores before the lawsuit was filed. After stipulated extensions allowed time to review the evidence, Ambry moved to dismiss the complaint for failure to state a claim. Ultimately, in March 2022, the parties entered into a non-confidential settlement agreement resolving all claims, and Friedman included that agreement as part of his filing. He further clarifies that he did not meet Baldoni until late December 2024, more than 2 years after the Flores litigation had concluded, when Baldoni retained him in connection with litigation adverse to Blake Lively and others. According to Friedman, the earlier Flores case and the later Lively-Baldoni litigation are entirely unrelated. In January 2025, when media outlets covering the Lively-Baldoni dispute asked him about the publicly known fact that he had previously represented Flores against Baldoni, Friedman responded with a statement. He emphasizes that his statement did not mention Flores by name and was not based on any confidential information obtained during the prior representation. Instead, he summarized non-confidential aspects of the settlement and information learned from the defendants during the course of the litigation, including references to Baldoni's charitable activities through Wayfarer Entertainment. Friedman also describes providing Flores' surviving spouse, who requested the legal file in January 2025, with a thumb drive containing approximately 635 megabytes of case materials, including pleadings, correspondence, agreements, invoices, and emails. He notes that the majority of the emails were communications with opposing counsel. He reiterates that neither he nor his firm ever represented Flores and Baldoni concurrently. The allegedly defamatory statement at issue, Friedman explains, was limited to his view that the evidence demonstrated no wrongdoing or liability on the part of Baldoni, Wayfarer, or the other defendants, and that the case was closed without liability. He maintains that he made no comments about Flores' character or reputation and did not criticize him personally. The defense letter cited in his declaration, sent on behalf of CBS and associated entities, stated that an internal investigation confirmed that the film was not based on Flores' script but was instead inspired by Claire Wineland, a cystic fibrosis patient featured in Wayfarer's documentary series My Last Days. The letter asserted that neither Baldoni nor the screenwriters were aware of or had access to Flores' screenplay and therefore could not have used it. It also addressed speculation that Baldoni obtained access through an individual named Caleb Remington, stating that documentary evidence showed Baldoni and Remington did not meet until after the first draft of the screenplay had already been completed, containing virtually all of the film's key elements. The defense letter goes on to state that any elements Flores claimed were similar had already been written into the film's early drafts. According to the documentation, this timeline conclusively shows that the movie was independently created, and that its writers could not have seen let alone copied protectable material from Flores' screenplay. The letter further argues that there is no legally recognizable substantial similarity between the two works. Any overlap, it says, stems from the unprotectable premise of teenagers dealing with serious illnesses and from familiar tropes common to the teenage romance genre. The defense explains that the inspiration for the film was Claire Wineland, a cystic fibrosis advocate who passed away in 2018 following complications from a double lung transplant. Justin Baldoni met her while working on the documentary series My Last Days. After first amplifying one of her videos connected to an educational initiative supporting people facing terminal illness, struck by her charisma and resilience, he featured her in the series. Like the fictional character Stella in 5 Feet Apart, Wineland documented her hospital stays and treatments online, building a large social media following. After forming a friendship with her, Baldoni developed the idea for a film centered on a young CF patient navigating love and adolescence while facing a life-threatening condition. He pitched the concept to CBS in April 2016 and was formally engaged a few months later to develop and direct the feature. Screenwriters Miki Daughtry and Tobias Iaconis were hired to draft the script, and in January 2017, Wineland was retained as a consultant. By March 22, 2017, the first draft of the screenplay was complete. The defense emphasizes that virtually every element the complaint later claimed was copied was already present in that March 2017 draft. This included the central romance between Stella and Will, two 17-year-old CF patients, Stella's best friend Poe, and the backstory involving Stella's late sister Abby, whose death fuels Stella's survivor's guilt and strict adherence to safety rules. The sister's memory is woven throughout the story through keepsakes and emotional callbacks. The allegation that Baldoni obtained Flores' script through Caleb Remington is described as not only incorrect but chronologically impossible. Baldoni did not meet Remington until late April 2017, after the supposedly similar elements were already embedded in the completed draft. The defense even attached email correspondence documenting when that introduction occurred. Substantively, the two projects are portrayed as dramatically different. Flores' screenplay centers on a teenage boy attending a camp for seriously ill adolescents, navigating friendships, group activities, and overlapping romantic tensions in a more ensemble-driven setting. It includes camp experiences, parties, and storylines involving multiple characters. In contrast, 5 Feet Apart focuses on a teenage girl in a hospital setting, chronicling her life online and developing a relationship constrained by the medical rule that CF patients must maintain physical distance. The tone of the film is intimate and medically focused, with hospital confinement and health complications shaping the narrative. The defense characterizes Flores' script as more sensational and driven by teenage intrigue, while describing the film as restrained and emotionally centered on illness, treatment, and the impossibility of physical closeness. Any shared elements, they argue, such as teenage characters with cystic fibrosis, flow naturally from the subject matter itself and are not legally protected. The letter ultimately concludes that Flores lacked a coherent theory, showing that the defendants had access to his work before creating the film, and that there was no non-frivolous basis for claiming substantial similarity between the two projects. Before filing this lawsuit, Travis Flores himself never claimed that the film violated his rights. In fact, He actively supported the movie, attending a premiere, posting positive messages on social media, and praising the film in media appearances. Over the years, he maintained a close and friendly relationship with Justin Baldoni, frequently texting and communicating with him. Baldoni also helped Flores raise funds for medical needs, featured him on My Last Days, and supported him personally when Flores faced struggles. Whatever motivated this sudden change in stance, legally, Flores does not have a legitimate position. The two screenplays are demonstrably different, and the timeline of events makes it clear that no copying occurred. Correspondence shows Baldoni did not even meet the individual allegedly involved until April 2017, after the disputed elements were already drafted. The settlement agreement from the earlier Flores litigation was non-confidential and voluntary, with both parties agreeing to waive future claims and hold each other harmless. It explicitly denies any liability or wrongdoing and does not constitute an admission of fault. Flores participated willingly, without coercion. Importantly, Baldoni's communications regarding the case were limited to his lawyers. There was no direct personal dispute with Flores. Media coverage reflects these facts. On January 22, 2025, the Daily Mail reached out for comment regarding a U.S. weekly story about the prior lawsuit over 5 feet apart. Brian Friedman, representing Baldoni, issued a statement explaining that Justin and Wayfarer had done nothing wrong, that there was no liability, and that the case had been resolved without any findings of wrongdoing. Friedman described the experience as confirming Baldoni and Wayfarer's integrity and ethics. This response was factual, focused on the legal outcome, and did not mention Flores personally. Interestingly, Flores' surviving spouse contacted Friedman's office on January 30, 2025, requesting the full legal file. While it's impossible to know exactly what prompted this, some have speculated that external parties, including Stephanie Jones or affiliates, may have encouraged action, taking advantage of the spouse's vulnerable position. Regardless, the facts remain clear. The two screenplays are unrelated. There was no copying, and the prior settlement explicitly prevented any further liability claims. The evidence confirms that the dispute has no substantive connection to Flores' original work, and the legal claims lack merit. The settlement wasn't the result of any payout. There was no money exchanged. The evidence clearly supports Brian Friedman's position, showing exactly what he stated about the case. The hope now is that the court hearing in May on the motion to dismiss will clarify matters, and that the surviving spouse realizes they may have been misled or given bad advice. Whoever influenced them to file this lawsuit got it wrong. Continuing this course, as Blake Lively and Stephanie Jones have done, that only makes the situation more embarrassing and unfair, especially for the surviving spouse. With all the information available, it's clear the two films have nothing in common, and dragging out the case only makes Lively and Jones appear more unreasonable. That's my take. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and click the bell so you never miss an update.